Bill does Belize. And today he brings us the unbelievable truth on our Saturday morning Marketing Smarties episode today.
Hey guys, Bill here from Bill Does Belize. I'm stepping out of my normal role today to share the unbelievable truth. And we're going to start with a little poem I wrote a few weeks ago called Sandals in the Sand, and I hope you enjoy it. So this is Sandals in the Sand. We started out in Canada, a lovely place to be, a place of abundance with everything you'd ever need. With its view of the mountains and of its two seas, yes, it was a pretty place that still had lots of trees. So why would anyone ever leave? It's so hard to conceive, but long cold winters were killing my neck and back and knees. My wife had had 2 minor strokes, so said her doctor's log. It was time to find a better life for me, my wife, and dog. It started out quite innocent, with no thoughts that we would leave, just looking for a better job that would give us both relief. I searched to find I could be rich with things online to do, but was it really possible? Or was it too good to be true? Then one day an ad popped up. A big surprise, you see. I block all of those pop-up ads, so was this one meant to be? I read it with an open mind, and it soon occurred to me that the solutions to our problems might be waiting in Belize. Now here's some advice that I wish someone had shared with me. You can't believe everything that you see and hear and read. Some people have a stake in selling paradise, but is what they're telling you really always right? You have to come and stay a while and keep an open mind. Be honest with yourself and see what you will find. You'll want to experience the culture here firsthand. That's what I call doing your sandals in the sand. Now, Belize must call out to you if you expect to stay, and you probably won't find happiness if you're not happy anyway. What used to be the little things will become the highlights of your day, like listening to the birdies sing or watching the sunset fade away, walking your dog along the beach, saying good morning to everyone, sharing love for your fellow man, and just enjoying the sun. And when you meet a new friend, be sure to shake his hand and listen to the stories of when he had his sandals in the sand. You'll have to leave the A attitude behind. You know, that instinct to force your will. The only thing that gets you here are directions to Ladyville. People here don't live to work or to produce more than yesterday. They work to get just what they need, enjoying the blessings of today. So when you walk into a shop looking for something that's hard to find, I'll share with you a little tip I try to keep at top of mind. Don't start with I want, I need, or I have to have that today. Consider starting with, how are you, my friend? And how's your family, by the way? Now, please don't get me wrong, because for my wife and me, Belize has been everything we had hoped that it would be. But many people come and leave and don't last here very long. Why can't they wait to get away? Is it one thing that goes wrong? The question has no good answer why, but I often say, the reasons that they choose to leave are the reasons that we stay. So take your time and go slow, and make sure you have a plan to explore for a little while with your sandals in the sand. Now, one last piece of advice that I hope you all hear well. For some, Belize is paradise, and for others, it's a living hell. You will hear opposing opinions on social and the forums, but who is right and who is wrong, and who just shares the norms? I can share my unbelievable truth and tell you what I see, but in the end, only you will know if that's your reality. So come and see for yourself and tour across our land, and then you can say you've done your sandals in the sand. So we have some other people today. I'm going to turn it back to Roland and let him introduce the people in the green room, and thank you everybody for listening.
How much fun is that, huh? Thank you, Bill. Thank you for doing our startup of the show today. Hi, my name is Roland.
My pleasure.
My name is Roland from MinMax Media, where we determine the minimum you need for the maximum impact. And I'm the sponsor and co-host of Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties with Bill Graham. And obviously today we brought a little bit different thing to you because we wanted to impress upon you that Bill does Belize, but he does it in a special way that we want to emphasize today because it's the example that we want to suggest that is possibly a very good one for you to follow. So anyway, that's the basics of what we're doing today. On this show, Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties, we emphasize the internet marketing tripod and also producing live streaming events with the highest audience engagement possible. So we're dedicated to helping to educate and redefining the concepts of engagement and relationship marketing. Now, before we go on, we're going to introduce who else is in the green room with us today. And today we had Andrew Hatchett usually joins us. Andy couldn't be with us today, but he's most certainly going to watch later on and see what he missed. And my mouse is malfunctioning, so hang on a second. Every once in a while, I have to turn my mouse on and off. I use a touchpad Logitech, but I think the touchpad is getting to the point where it doesn't want to be touched anymore. Anyway, other green room constituents with me today joined me earlier on is Tim Longwell. So Tim, come on board and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what your projects are coming up with the VCP plugin.
Thanks. We had to find the mute button there. My mouse wanted to go somewhere else today. Must be a...
Mine too.
Hi, I'm Tim Longwell. I operate what I call Longwell Art. I help people gain contentment through creativity and learn how to turn their dreams, ideas, and memories and photos into works of art, or at least bring them happiness and peace.
That's a fabulous goal, and I'm behind you 100%. So thank you very much. Thank you for being with us today. And Tim is going to be helping us with the comment tracking. So we set Bill free to comment directly on the video today and tell us a little bit more about what he does in delivering the unbelievable truth. So moving on, the other person in the green room with us today is Lowell Ann Fulsang, who has her own show on Tuesdays called The Success Circle and Being Your Own CEO. And Lowell Ann, come on board and tell everybody a little bit about that.
Well, good morning from Canada, just where Bill left. So I truly enjoyed your poem, Bill. That was Sandals in the Sand. I just love it. So
Thank you, Lola.
yeah, so that was a really, really neat way for us to begin. So what do? I work with solopreneurs. I really like helping people sort of get their business systems in place, and that includes their online presence and the Being Your Own CEO Success Circle is about a lot of us getting together, sharing our discoveries, doing some experimentation, and for me, I keep doing it because I just really enjoy everybody's company. So, and I might just say that Tuesday's Success Circle, we are going to explore what we all know about Instagram. So everyone is welcome. Just go to lowland.com and you'll be able to watch it and comment.
Good deal. And just to double up on that, if Lowland, if you want to drop the URL in the comment stream, and then we can also make a message of it in the comment tracker mechanism, and we can display that so it'll be actually in the video itself. So feel free to do that. Each of you want to display that today, that's fine. And also, Bill, if you would, before we're done, have one screen share ready, and we'll do a series of screen shares to show your URL to visit your website and your presentation. And Lowland and Tim, you can do the same. So, okay, let's. I'm going to regroup for just a second, because this show is about watching what's happening on the internet and helping people pick and choose the select things that are going to help them in their efforts to promote themselves and develop their own online presence. So let me interrupt myself and see what Tim's bringing us.
We have a couple of comments from over on YouTube. We have Lori B joining us. She says, telling Bill it was very touching and quite emotional, so believable. And then we have Chili Beans. He's saying it's beautiful. He's ready to move to Belize, or she. I can never remember which one you are, Chili. You'll have to help me out.
Chili Beans.
Yep, Chili Beans booty butts.
Okay, did you have another comment, or was that it?
That's it. Then.
Okay, so Chili Beans is a female lady, and she's a prolific writer herself, and she's a family member. And I can't remember exactly where Chili Beans lives. Can't remember exactly, but yeah, we call her Chili. Anyway.
Well, and I just want to thank both of them for their comments. Much appreciated.
And we will definitely come back to that poem in just a moment, because I had something to add to this. But before we go on from that, I have what I will try to be is a very brief rant, as usual, you know. But there was one email that I got very recently, and they started up in the subject line. It says, set up, license, and deliver digital content. Well, so far as like being in the marketing arena, that would get me to be a little bit curious, you know. But they also had another bit of something in the subject line that struck me, and it was, I'm actually going to do a screen share and show what I copied from this article. And this was exactly copy pasted from the article. So this is the content: the setup, license, and deliver digital content. That's really the top of the message. But in the subject line in the opener, it had this thing that kind of looks like Jim and Mike, and maybe those are capital I's or maybe whatever. But the "and" was a ampersand with a little dot before that. And so if a text reader or a Google search is scanning this message, it's not going to say Jim and Mike. So I want everyone to look at that and think, Why did they do that? Do you know why they did that in their subject line? And we'll come back to that in a moment. But anyway, their message in the email was, hang on, I got to get it situated here. It said, hello, I have something really powerful for you that not only will save you a lot of time, but also make everything a lot better for you and your business. If you're selling or planning to sell any kind of digital content, then you need this platform. Anything from ebooks and training to plugins, desktop tools, or web-based software services, and even more. You need to see how much this can do for you today. Demo. It's only open for a few early adopters who are ready to let us waive the future recurring billing and get grandfathered lifetime account. And what this is going to do for you, unlimited clients, unlimited downloads. Oh, by the way, downloads with a dot between down and load, so it separates the words and does not become a keyword recognized word. Unlimited products, amazing integrations, foolproof development. Pardon me, future-proof development. All these keywords that are like catchphrases to catch your attention. We've got to be future-proof in our development. User management, automated system, blah, 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 blah. And it kind of wraps up. It says, product dino, price possibilities are endless, opportunities are endless. Pick up your digital empire, power up your digital empire now. All kinds of catchphrases. And I wanted to make note that it's also connected to, automatically connected to various other services, two of which you might recognize. One of them was the JV Zoo, and the other one was the Warrior Forum. Now, if you're into marketing game at all, you know what these things are, and I'm not going to get into that, but that gives you a taste of what kind of a service this is if they're connected to JV Zoo and the Warrior Forum. Okay, now I want to give you a quick view. This is what the actual web page looks like, and product dino, the headline, the video, and then all kinds of sales stuff to talk you into buying. Okay, I'm just making a short circuit of this whole thing. We're not going to go into it because I could rant and rave about each segment of this presentation. And at the end of it, they take you to a page that basically, and I'll quit screen sharing at this point. I'll quit, hang on. So at the end of this long pitch, it gives you one of these, wait, don't buy yet, this is the bonus, blah, blah, blah. It encourages you to buy now. Don't be excluded. Don't miss out. Get grandfathered in and all this stuff. Save now. Oh, and another, they've got multiple calls to action. But the main thing is, come on in now and get the basic for $67 or the advanced for $97 or get the unlimited account for $200, $197. So the objective is very few people get the unlimited because that's a lot of money. And very few people want to get the least. So what they're doing is gearing everyone towards $97 purchase whenever possible. Get the advanced, it's like a step up. Nobody wants the least, nobody wants the basic, and they want to get a little bit better. And so they're basically gearing this pitch to $97. And quite honestly, this thing is not going to deliver anything. Not because the process is not a good process if you follow their methodology, but because the average business is not set up to take advantage of the tools they're presenting. And the tools that they're presenting don't cost anybody $97 because they're already there. It's just a matter of you getting them, organizing them, and using them. But these guys have it figured out so that if you follow this plan, we're going to give you all the tools to make use of these things and make tons of money, get unlimited clients and unlimited this and unlimited that. The problem is most businesses are not ready to even launch a business plan, let alone take care of these things. So what happens is everybody buys in for $67 or $97, and they determine that, wow, I can't use it yet. I can't effectively use this stuff. And since they bought it, they don't get a refund, or they don't try to get a refund. And so the company that produces this stuff, which is already there on the internet for free, most of it's for free, but they got $97 out of your bank book and put it into theirs. And the whole reason they're doing this is to put money in their pockets, not yours. So I hope that gives everybody who's watching an idea of the hundreds and thousands of landing page pitches for products that they don't need until they get the rest of their business ready to market. And so that's one of the things that happens today on the internet. As I've always said, 80% of what's being handed on the internet is BS, not because it's all wrong, but because it's not applicable to what you're trying to achieve and what you need to know before you get started. So that's Roland's rant for the day. And from there, the reason that we have Bill featured for today is that we want to give you a good idea, a good model to follow as to how you might do it differently than what these guys would have you do it. Because they had you all these things, but that's definitely not the right methodology today. Not in today's environment of social media and mobile marketing, and not in the environment of being human, being a person, being authentic. And this is my idea of how you do it and how you be authentic, and Bill's a good example of that. So with no further ado, I want to come back to your poem, Bill. And people, the reaction for people is, oh, that was really a beautiful poem. And as a poem, it's wonderful. It's really a great poem. And when you listen to it, you get this feeling that there's a journey that went on, and it describes stages of a journey as you went through. So what I would suggest is people can go back and listen to the poem again, and maybe even beg Bill for a copy of the lyrics so that they can read through it and get a sense of really what is he conveying, what are the messages, because the poem's got several messages. So not to dwell on the poem today, but the poem was great, and I hope people will inquire more about it and maybe go back and replay this video and listen to it. But it was really a pleasure having you open it up with this. So
well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So with no further ado, my questions for Bill would start with, why relocate to Belize? What made you decide to move at all, and then why Belize?
Well, kind of like the poem says, I was working in construction for 30 years in Canada. The cold winters, I mean, after 20 years, for the first time, I had 2 or 3 weeks off. And as I spent more and more days away from work, I was finding it harder and harder to get out of my lazy boy in the mornings, because my knees didn't want to bend. My back didn't want to straighten up. And my wife was also in a stressful job, and she was diagnosed with two minor strokes. And basically the doctor told her, either you have to change your way of life or your job is going to kill you. And we, like the poem says, I started out looking online. I mean, as a construction worker, I had always said, I got to get away from this stuff and get a computer job, because we all think in our minds that sitting at a computer is a much easier lifestyle than working construction. And I can tell you now that it's not. It's just a whole other set of muscles that get sore. But that was the idea, was that I was online looking for not an escape from Canada. I mean, we certainly didn't have anything against Canada. We love it. We never thought about leaving Canada. We were thinking about trying to find a better life that would help us both with our aches and pains. And we were only 52. And we had the mindset that everyone else has, is that you work till 65 minimum. And then you retire and you sit on the porch. And I was thinking, well, you know what? Another 13, 14, 15 years of this, what kind of quality of life are we going to have? The only thing we may be able to do is sit on the porch. So it was just kind of an exploration to find a different life. Like the poem says, an ad popped up one day. It said, retire to Costa Rica for $800 a month. Very sugar-coated, but it started the wheels in my head rolling that there were other alternatives to finding a different job. I mean, we could actually change our entire lives. We could move to a place where people are more laid back, where there's much less stress if you're willing to leave the culture behind. And that's kind of where it went. We had some concerns doing our research. Language was one of them. And quite honestly, Loralee found Belize. It's a former British colony. English is the first language here. And it kind of erased one of our major fears. So that was the prime reason, after deciding that we were going to move to Central America, that we chose Belize was the English. Everything else being English, everything else being equal, I mean, English was a deciding factor. So
That's
here
cool.
we are.
So that brings to mind that you were looking for various options, and you even were led to the concept of relocating from an ad for Costa Rica. So were there any other competitive concepts as far as destination opportunities for you?
Oh, yeah. There's the top four that seems all expats explore. Panama has a great retirement package. Ecuador is another one. Costa Rica is one. And Belize, they seem to be the top four. Belize in the four now, just in recent years, so it's a developing market here. But yeah, there were several options as far as moving, and we sat down together. We watched. I mean, in the beginning, my wife was dead against it. I said, you know, I have this idea about how we can retire. I was thinking Costa Rica, and she just turned and walked away from me. She said, no. I can't leave. I could never leave my country. I could never leave my family. I could never this. I could never that. What about the bugs? What about this? What about healthcare? I mean, she had 52 years of fears built up in her based on things that weren't really reality. They were just fears that are instilled in us. If you go to a third world country, you will be murdered. It's maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but it's going to happen. So we ended up sitting down. We found a couple of YouTube channels of people because the first thing I realized is that a lot of the stuff online, it's so sugar-coated. It's put up there by people that are trying to sell you your piece of paradise or their thought of your piece of paradise. So the hardest thing was to find somebody that we could relate to and that we could trust to give us the information. And we were able to sit down together, you know, go through all of the fears individually together, watching it on the big screen. And eventually she changed her mind. And I knew that had happened because I came home one night and I heard her on the phone with her mother saying, well, the cost of living is a lot cheaper. And well, medical is okay unless you have heart problems or this or that. And I knew at that point that she had turned the corner and she was actually entertaining the idea. And
you were closing in on conversion, and
well, not really. I mean, I knew from my research before I even went to her is that we both had to be on the same page.
Yeah,
it was going to be her and I against the world. And for me to trick her into coming here and her 6 months later finding out that it wasn't a place for her was not going to do either one of us any good. And a lot of people come here under that pretense and they end up divorced. One can't leave, the other can't stay, and there's no reconciling that. So I knew from the beginning it wasn't something I had to convince her of. It was something we had to sit down and decide together. Very
good. And what is really interesting is like I went through a minor version of this because we used to live in Orange County, which is pretty vast, but it has a lot of different aspects to it. And I was looking at a community called Rancho Santa Margarita that to the locals, it seemed like it was way away. You know, it was only 10 miles difference is really what it was. But to us, that was like a different country. And when we went out there, it was like, well, they don't have this and they don't have that. And so, but after we decided to look at it enough times, we started to like it. And Barbara started to like it. And we are so happy we moved here. But it's something that I saw as an opportunity. But we had to get enough exposure for Barbara to understand what the parameters were and what the opportunities were, what the whole nature was. And that's got to be a whole lot tougher when you're talking about relocating to another country. Go ahead, Lolan.
Well, the Fulsang family went through something very similar. We moved from the Maritimes, New Brunswick, on the east coast of Canada, to the Arctic, into Yellowknife. And there were 5 of us, 3 teenage boys and the 2 of us. And we traveled across the country, went up to Yellowknife in July, which was kind of interesting. July is probably the best month of the year there. But my boys fell madly in love with the fishing opportunities up there. So, yeah, but I spent 20 years there. 2 of the 5 of us are still there. So,
yeah.
So it's a very similar kinds of things, Bill, because if you needed to go shopping, the North was no place to go, you know?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And the culture, you needed to pay attention to what the culture was and learn to sit back and understand it. So you can move to your own Belize if you move to Canada's north. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just the move. I mean, I know the biggest kickback, I guess you would call it, would be from Loralee's father. I mean, we spent our last 2 weeks in Canada at her parents' place, and about every 20 minutes he'd say, "What's the name of that damn place you're moving to again?" And yeah. I knew that he had no inkling to research Belize. His problem was that we were moving, and we could have moved another province, we could have moved to Vancouver, or we could have moved to the moon. It would have all been the same.
Well, Bill, I had a similar reaction from my mother. When we announced to her, her reaction was, well, I guess I have to live with the fact that I'll never see you again.
Yeah. So, yeah, a lot of that feedback we get are based on people's fears. You know, they don't, it's not from a logical place. It's from a dark, fearful place inside of us. So all we can do in that situation is try and deal with their fears, try and answer their questions, try and give them as much information and be positive about it ourselves. And I mean, we've been here almost 3 years, and it's only been 3 or 4 months since her father has stopped asking, well, when are you moving back? So I think maybe he's finally turned the corner.
Wow. So it brings to mind that there's a lot of psychological and emotional things that are inherent to any kind of a move of this nature. And it's family, and it's like your culture, what you're used to. There's some major differences and things going on. But I wanted to redirect the conversation. Go ahead.
One of my favorite things used to be to go to hockey games. Well, that ain't happening in Belize.
Is there a suitable replacement?
What it used to be a $300 ticket to go to a Leafs game would probably be $3,000 just to get ice in a building here. So
that's funny.
And there's all kinds of that kind of thing. I mean, there's so many things that people just assume are the same. So that's why I say you have to come. You have to live here. If you're the kind of person that goes out to the theater with your wife every Friday night, or you're the person that likes Cirque du Soleil or that quality of entertainment, you're not going to find it here, and you're going to be disappointed. You have to adapt, and like the poem says, the little things become the big things. The birds singing, the sunsets. I mean, the first time I ever really sat and enjoyed a sunset was in Belize. In Canada, I was usually driving home after a 10-hour day of work, you know, with the visor down and my hand up and cursing the damn sunset because it was in my eyes the whole way home. So
there's a definite view of culture shock for what you're describing as far as what you moved to and what you left. There's an extreme culture shock. One of the things and what I wanted to redirect our discussion for a brief period of time was there were a lot of legal things that you went through. And when you and I have talked about the move to Belize, there have been several discussions about things you had to go through. I mean, legal hoops and qualification ramifications, all kinds of stuff that that people don't think of and aren't aware of what's going on until you get face to face with it and really actually start considering the move. So what were some of the things that you had to conquer along with just the culture shock itself? There were many more things.
Just to learn to relax. I mean, we had lived 20, 25 years in high stress jobs, always on edge, always predicting what the next thing was that was going to go wrong and try and prevent it. You know, there's things here that make me shake my head once in a while, some procedural things. But in general, I mean, we had done our research. We were prepared for the fact that things weren't going to be as smooth here as they were in Canada. So we came pretty well prepared, I think, or as well prepared as we could be. So we didn't have a lot of challenges. I mean, procedures are a little different. You have to treat people different here. I mean, like the poem says, people here don't work to serve. They don't work to produce more items than they did yesterday. They work just to get what they need and to enjoy their lives. So for me to walk in and say, you know, I broke the screen on my laptop, which happened shortly after we got here. I closed it on my earbuds. I went in and it was minimum 3 weeks to get a new screen for my laptop. So in Canada, I could probably yell and scream and put somebody down at Best Buy, and they would go out of their way to maybe try and get that screen in a couple of days. But here, it's 3 weeks minimum, and you just have to learn to accept that and with your life.
So part of it is just the pace of everything. And we'll discuss what I would surmise in just a moment. But Loralee has a comment coming from the field.
This is from Barbara. She says, when we were talking about our family reactions, they are just trying to guilt you into not going. And you were probably right, Barbara.
Yeah, and it just goes back to they have their own fears. I mean, so.
Yeah.
So let me see. I'm actually going to display a comment here because it's quite pertinent, and maybe it cuts to the chase a lot of what we're discussing here. This is from Heidi, who is not with us today because she's busy doing some stuff, but she's able to be with us and just kind of join us from the field occasionally. And so I will do a screen share here, and then you can answer this question perhaps. So Heidi asks, what Baron then actual costs to live in this place, and how is the healthcare situation? Is there care for the environment or poison food as everywhere else?
Wow. Well, the costs, I mean, to be quite honest with people, we spend per month about, on average, $2,500 Belize, and we rent. Half of our budget is rent. So $2,500 Belize is $1,250 US. So that gives you an idea of the budget to live here. As far as food, yeah, we're far healthier. I mean, we go to the markets and get fresh fruits and vegetables, 10 for $1. Oranges are 3 for $1. Very economical. There's no GMOs here. I mean, that's not to say that some of the farmers don't spray and that kind of thing to keep bugs away. But in general, yeah, the food is a lot healthier. The meat is certainly not the, well, I say the quality we get in Canada, but that's not really true. I mean, you won't find a nice plump red steak that's all full of stuff to make it look like that and display just properly under the lights. Healthcare is certainly not what we're used to in Canada and the United States. I mean, if you're healthy, basic healthcare here is more than adequate. If you have special issues like heart problems or, you know, more serious things, then you have to know and you have to realize that Belize is a third world country. I prefer the term developing nation. But first of all, the diagnostic equipment is not here. Because it's not here, people don't have the experience using it. So these are things you have to consider as part of your sandals in the sand. I mean, if you're going to need good quality healthcare, then you may end up finding that you have to take a lot of trips to Mexico or back to the US or somewhere other than here.
Wow. So that was a mouthful. I'm really glad that you added this. We have a comment from Loralee, and then we have a share from Tim.
Oh, just a short question again from Barbara on the site. She's asking, Bill, have you been through a hurricane yet?
We experienced our first hurricane. Well, it actually hit shore on the shoreline as a Category 1. By the time it got to us, it was more of a tropical storm. But yeah, I have a video on my website of how the rivers rose 30 to 50 feet in some areas in a 12-hour period. Wow. As a result of, receiving 12 inches of rain in like 12 hours. So hurricanes they're something we prepare for every year. We have what we call our hurricane cupboard that we stack with non-perishables. Because if a hurricane hits, the power could be down for a week. The stores typically run out of almost all merchandise because people stock up for the eventuality of not being able to get out of their homes or whatever. So it's a concern, but we prepare the house. We do preparations around the yard to make sure that, coconuts aren't going to fly through the windows like cannonballs and just pick up stuff and just prepare for it.
That was a good visual, Bill. Thank you. A comment coming from Tim. Let's see what it is.
Yeah, Chili Bean says she always wanted to move, but she couldn't bring herself to do anything more than dream about an uprooting. She can't imagine the thought of leaving her sons and grandchildren.
That's good, really good point.
That's very real. It's a very real concern. And, again, like the poem says, it has to call out to you. You can't just decide that, I'm going to move somewhere, everything will be fine. I mean, it has to be something that I don't know how else to say it, but Belize called to us, and everything in our process just seemed to fall together. We were in Belize 6 months after making the decision that we would move, and that was with a 2-year plan to do it. And just, getting our house prepared. Our house sold in 4 days. We were actually homeless 2 days before we came for our first visit to check out Belize. The ad popping up when I normally don't get ads on my screen, and to see that ad, it just, for our process, it just seemed that everything was calling to us, and it was falling into place like it was meant to be. And I think if people like Chili Beans that have fears about doing it or can't do it for those reasons, then don't. because those fears are real, and they're not going to leave just because you move to a warmer climate.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I mean, if you literally cannot see happiness on the other side of the move, then the best thing is the hesitation that doesn't allow you to go. Go ahead, Lowland.
Well, getting back to, what your preparation for hurricane and a disaster, etc. I ran into something similar in the north, and that is if the electricity went out, you ran the danger of everybody freezing to death. But when those kinds of things are part of your environment, it brings out an incredibly effective community reaction. People support one another. People watch out for one another. It's the kind of thing that you don't find in an urban environment. So, I mean, there are dangers wherever you go, but
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And that's what I say to people that are coming to Belize. If you're the kind of person that sits back in Canada and expects somebody to solve your problems, whether it be the government or a friend or whatever, you're probably not going to make it here, because here people are more self-sufficient. They're more responsible for themselves. If I'm walking down a dock texting and I fall off the end and break my leg, there's no point suing anyone. I mean, it's your fault. In Canada, we tend to look up and see if anybody saw us, and if they saw us, well, then now we're embarrassed. And there's probably a lawyer or his assistant handing you his card and telling you have a responsibility to sue that person because you don't know what will happen down the road. And so it's just a whole different way of life, of looking after yourself, protecting yourself, and just being more aware.
Absolutely. So we have a comment coming in from Tim's side, and then I had a last question for Bill.
Yeah,
Home is-
Lori B.
Go
Lori
ahead.
B. earlier had said, home is where the heart is. I thought that tied in real nicely with what Chili Bean said. And then we have another request before we leave today. If we can, is Eileen Smith would love to hear Bill's poem again. If we can.
Very cool. We can definitely do that, and we will save time for that for sure. And that's a very special request, and it's a worthy request, so we will do that. But right now, I'd like to take a few minutes, and this could be a whole different, separate show. But in moving to Belize, and especially like the way I met you in a community, and we were writing, and we were just like, pinging each other by posting things in the community and stuff. And I came to know that you are a good writer, and that you had a brain that I wanted to tap into, because it seemed like everybody else was just posting just, I don't know, to glorify themselves and do something. But I was there expressing myself and learning things about other people. And I indeed learned a lot about you. But what I understand is that you wanted to take some of your skills of writing and assessing and what was going on and apply it to an online outreach built around the concept of Build and Build as Belize. And so what my final question to you was, as far as how you started your website and what your intentions are, have they changed at all? And what is the direction of your marketing or your efforts online? Because most people have a thought of like, how can I make money with a website? But I'm pretty sure that that's not your central focus if I know you. And so I want to know how you're focusing your energy and what your thoughts are about the development of your website and that.
Wow, that's a long process. And I guess it goes back to the beginning, with everybody says, I can't wait till I can retire. I can move to a place like Belize, sit on the beach with little umbrella drinks, and spend my whole day doing that. And believe me, it was great in the beginning, but it only lasted about 3 weeks, and I found I had to find something to do. I'm surprised it was the computer, because back in Canada, I only used the computer to send emails, and I almost punched holes in the screens every time I did that. And after I would send an email, I would call the person to see if they actually received the email, because I wasn't sure if I had done it properly. So for me, it started out, and I was very fortunate. I started up the computer one day and I thought, well, how does this damn thing work? And I found Google. And of all the places I could have started, I think Google was the best. I'm not sure if it's true today, but at that time, Google was a very helpful, very good resource for people starting out. And in the beginning, I had no intentions of then communicating with my family and friends back home that were fearful we were going to get murdered here. So I started doing what I call daily tidbits, where, you know, I shared something that we did that day. I thought I was sharing it to them, but I was sharing it to the world. And sure enough, a few weeks later, somebody asked me a question, and more questions started to come in. So then I realized, well, you know what? The first thing I realized was that everything online was sugar-coated. So what I could offer people was my version of the unbelievable truth. Now, that is my truth. It may not be your truth, but what I try to do is share my experiences without condemning or promoting Belize. I mean, I find myself doing both on occasion, but my intention was to just help people find the actual information. I mean, it's fine to see a nice, beautiful picture of the beach, but it's a different thing to know if you scroll down 5 feet, you're going to see all the seagrass that blows up here that no resort is ever going to tell you about. So that's how it started for me. Then as I realized that it was something that people were interested in, I started my website with your help, Roland. And I started trying to engage with people. And I mean, even today, my primary focus is just to help other people to make an informed decision. I spend more time on other social forums and Facebook pages and Facebook groups than I do on my own website. But that's where people are asking questions, and that's what I'm happy to do, is try and help people. So that's basically how I got into it. How it's evolved. It evolves slowly but surely. We all have to determine what our own success is. For me, I wasn't expecting to have 1 million followers. I wasn't expecting to make $1 million. So I'm quite happy with where it's at. I get views a week on my website, and I'm now getting people that are making contact with me that have never engaged with me, but now that they're ready to come to Belize, they're looking for somebody to kind of show them around, help them with that fear of, you know, how do I get around safely and that type of thing. And they're approaching me to do that. So business is possibly springing out of that I had never anticipated. And, but yeah, that's kind of the beginning, the middle, and where it's at now.
Well, the people who are responding to you and reaching out now, they established the know and the like and the trust issue, and then reaching out to you. And you didn't have to take them 5 steps before they were at that point of conversion and say, hey, you want to contact me about Belize? And you know, they would have just said, no, I'm, you know, and if you contacted them again in the middle, hey, why don't you call me up sometime? We'll talk about Belize. So they, no, get out of my hair, you know, leave me alone. But you waited until they got to their own zero moment of truth, and then they knew who to contact. And that's what inbound marketing is all about. You're giving to the people so you establish your authority, so that when the time comes that they decide, I want to look into this, or I want to make the move, or I want to buy, or I want to be there, or I want to know more, they contact who they see as the authority, and that's what's happening. That's a beautiful story.
Yeah, and like I say, you know, I mean, my intention was never to make money at it. I mean, will I make money at it at some point? I may stumble over something and make some money, but my intention was basically just to help people make informed decisions. So many people come here uninformed and end up leaving, and they're people that are older that have saved all of their life, make a major investment in a move, and squander their savings because they didn't have the proper information. And that, to me, I mean, statistics say that more than 50% leave within their first year. And I don't have anything to verify that statistic, but I can tell you that any expat here can remember more people that have left than people that have stayed. So to me, that's worthy of a rant. I mean, how all of these people can paint this beautiful picture of Belize, but never really tell you of the hurdles that you're going to have to jump and the things that you're going to have to adapt to.
That's amazing. It's like the same thing that I feel about marketing and pushing stuff on the internet. Loralee, I'm going to put you in line for your comment briefly because Tim's been waiting to bring something from the field.
So do you want me to speak? It's just a quick comment to Bill. When I was in the north, I was heard to say, I'm so sick of attending farewell parties.
Yeah,
that's one for the books.
And the reason for that is that people don't do their research. And one of the main things I tell people is do your research and have a plan to move here. But just as important is have a plan for leaving, because not everybody can adapt to slowing down to that extent, to not having the entertainment advantages and all of the abundance that we have, you know, three Best Buys in every town and 3 Future Shops and all of that stuff. I mean, so yeah, it's all part of the process, I think.
So Tim's got a comment from, I think it's Barbara. Where in Belize do you live? On one of the Cays or on the mainland? And even I can answer that one now. But go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, and Cays is pronounced Keys. So it's actually the Keys are the islands. That. And like no problem. Like everyone, you know, we saw paradise as being by the beach. So yes, we moved to Ambergris Caye, to a small town called San Pedro. It's actually one of the bigger towns here. But we weren't really water people. We weren't going diving every day. We weren't advantage of the sea. It was costing us twice as much to live there as it would on the mainland. So yeah, we ended up moving actually to the other side of the country. We're almost on the western border now, in Caye district in Bullet Tree Falls. And we love it here. I mean, we're surrounded by cows and parrots, and the howler monkeys are over by the river, and it's been a good move for us. Really
good. And that's interesting. You know, the word Cayes pronounced keys. Of course it is. I hear the word all the time, but I think of other places where they spell it differently. The Florida Keys and stuff like that. The word keys probably comes from the derivative of Cayes and pronounced keys. So that's interesting. Go ahead, Loralee.
I just want to acknowledge Dennis Jackman is on the website page, and he says, very nice and informative, my friend.
Oh, very cool.
You know what? I'd like to give, if you don't mind, Roland, I'd like to give a special mention to Dennis. Dennis is a good friend of mine. We're partners in a Facebook group where he basically shares his unbelievable truth. It's a Facebook page called Belize Don't Believe the Hype. And the tagline is, we love Belize, we just don't lie about it. And Dennis and I helped Dennis administer the group. And today we're actually celebrating a special event for us. We just passed 500 members in our group yesterday. And yeah, for us, that was a great thing because, again, it was never about the numbers. It was about providing information for people. And what Andrew said last week about vetting people coming into the group, really rung true for me. I mean, we accept probably 3 to 4 out of 10 people that actually apply to join the group. So yeah, I want to give a shout out to Dennis if that's okay. I guess whether it's okay or not, I've already done it, and congratulate him on his success, and tell him it's been a pleasure for me to work with him.
You can tell Dennis that I am not inclined to delete that or extricate it or edit it out of the presentation. It's absolutely fine. Welcome, Dennis. Thank you for visiting the Smarties today. By the way, to wrap up this concept, I wanted to bring to the program some quotes from Tim Rubin. And to tell you who Tim Rubin is would take way too long. I encourage everyone to Google his name, Tim, and last name Rubin. A lot of people consider him the epitome of social media marketer today, but he's not a normal marketer. That's why I don't have a rant for him. I have a rave for Tim Rubin. So I'm going to share my screen right now, and I'm going to read what he writes. Social marketing is less about driving traffic and more about attracting traffic. Social marketing has evolved from seeing who could gather the most likes to seeing who has the most on-target fan base. A simple quality over quantity shift. Measuring the return on relationship is not easy, as it involves not only analyzing connection growth, but also measuring the overall sentiment of your customer's voice in relation to your brand. He's connecting the dots that people do not think about. This includes measuring organic sharing rates of your content and your channel return rates. Tim Rubin. And he's got a couple more. I could spend the whole session talking about that, but it's enough that I got that recorded into the session. Another quote by Tim Rubin. I misspelled his name, Ted Rubin. Oh, well, whatever. Everyone is trying to assign a dollar value to a Facebook fan or Twitter follower instead of addressing the fact that the engagement and interaction that takes place in these mediums are incredibly important to the brand. Building a relationship with existing and future customers is the true value and strength of social media marketing. Ta-da! And what will and has allowed brands to survive and flourish in the long term. You've heard people say social media marketing is a long-term investment of time and money, and that's to me the substantiation of that. One last one from Tim Rubin. Oh, I called him Ted again. I'm sorry, Tim. So sorry I called you Ted. In a fast-paced digital world, defining and maintaining our relationships has become unexpectedly difficult. Social media has enabled us to connect with an infinite number of individuals. It has given us the tools to extend relationships that years ago would have been impossible. Yet, make no mistake, social media is a facilitator of relationships, but it is not the relationship itself. You have to give to get. I love that. It's so simple in concept, yet it's not always easy to wrap your arms around when online, since it is not as simple as favor or a hug or a handshake. Tim Rubin, not Ted Rubin, Tim Rubin. So my takeaway is give to get. Give to get. It is based on the relationships. And that social media, just because you're there, doesn't mean that you're building a relationship. It's a tool, and it's how you use the tool that matters. And if we use the subject of what Bill is doing, the first thing he did was decide why he's here. The second thing he did was he developed a focus on what he loves to do. And that's basically social media and talking about his new home. And so the Bill Does Belize concept is backed by the concept that he loves what he's doing. And that's so, so important. Lolan has a comment from the field.
Yes, this is from Dennis Jackman. He says, Bill, the research I have found is that 72+% leave under 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I mean, usually what I say is that 50% leave within the first year and a larger percentage by the second year. So, yeah, I mean, that's a real statistic and a reason why people really need to do their sandals in the sand research, be honest with themselves, and listen to what people tell you. You're probably not the exception to the rule. So be honest with yourself and make a decision based on other people's experiences.
Well, that's been such great stuff. Your concept of what you exemplify, Bill, really stresses all the things that I pulled out from Tim Rubin as quotes. And it's just basically social media is a tool, and it's all depending on how we use the tool and how we build relationships that makes all the difference. And so I'm really happy bringing your example to the forefront and showing how you do it and why you do it and so forth. And we have time for one more comment before we wrap it up, and I'm going to ask Bill if there's anything else that we've missed. This is from Tim.
Lori B says possibilities are endless. Hence, in theory, life and art can be reversed. Care for your own creativity. As she bids us farewell for today, she has to take off. And Eileen Smith says that she would. Ted Rubin is known for his R&R, return on relationship. Apparently she's. I get the impression she's glad you quoted him today.
Yeah, the ROR or R on R is, I think, coined by Tim Rubin. And I'm really sorry that I wrote Ted Rubin in there, because now everyone's going to call him Ted Rubin, and it'll be all because of me. I did not mean to write that. His name is Tim. Tim Rubin. He's great. There aren't too many people I follow, and he's one of them. He's probably the key one. Him and also Ben Hunt. Ben Hunt I like because he's kind of edgy, and I find an affinity for what he has to say. He doesn't put up with any BS. But anyway, to wrap up our concept of what we're talking about today, is there anything else that you'd like to tell people about Belize, or do you have anything to wrap us up for today, Bill? Go ahead, Bill.
Well, not really. I mean, I would just say do your research. Like I said before, be honest with yourself. Come and spend as much time as you possibly can before making a decision. That's the only way to know if what everybody is telling you is true for you. I mean, that was one of the biggest things I found online, is that ask a question on a form, and the answers would be all over the spectrum based on a person's own experience and perspective. So for me to share my experiences will help you, whether they should be what guides you. I mean, maybe guide you, but maybe you shouldn't use it to make the ultimate decision. I mean, the best advice I can give to people is, for any move you want to make, whether it be, across the country, across the world, go and experience it. Have a plan for backing out of it if it doesn't work. And, only you can know what your reality is.
That is so, so true. And the backup plan, that's a great idea. And in life, we should have one either way. But what I really like about what you did, Bill, is you took it upon the instinct of what you did research on and decided what you do, and made a move that has so far paid off for you very well, because you did the things that you were guided to with your heart. And so that's a lot of things to learn from what we established today. And thank you very much for being our featured guest and for presenting about Belize and the unbelievable truth. And we're going to wrap it up for today. I hope that everyone gained something, maybe picked up some tidbits, and maybe learned also not to jump at shiny objects like the one that I displayed in my rant from the beginning of the show. And do your research and listen to the truth and listen to your heart. And I think that'll really pay off. So thank you very much for watching Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties, and the people who came and visited us today. Thank you very much. We appreciate your comments. Green Room participants, thank you. And good day from Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties.
Thanks. Bye, guys.